What's going on, everybody? This is James Grandmaster Facts Voice, and you're here for another episode of the Facts Project. Today, special guest, repeat guest, Wells Thompson. We're here to talk about Mechaton once again, but this time, the entire trade, Volume 1, Issues 1 through 5. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Look, I tell everybody when it comes to recommendations for indie comics, especially something that is all ages and something that is particularly fun, that Mechaton is just one of those comics that seems to always be on the list for me. And the result of it is just like the concept of it. Obviously, I could tell it's more than likely you and a bunch of friends shooting ideas in the middle of a room, and then all of a sudden it's like something stuck. And it was like, you know what? Days later, that does work. You know what? That's cool as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, nail on the head. I mean, it was, it was days later, and then it was weeks later, and then it was months later and years later, and we just kept on coming back to it. Like, that's a good idea, man. We
like,
gotta do something with that.
like somebody got to start writing about that. So,
Yeah.
so who jumped the shark? Was it you or Dalton?
Dalton wrote the first draft.
Gotcha.
It was always sort of historically, I've never been the guy with the crazy out there, huge concept ideas. I'm much more like on the ground character oriented. And I feel like I've gotten more dynamic over time as a partially from working with Dalton, because he's just such like a engaging and fun storyteller, and just and has that energy of just like, yeah, but what if something crazy happened?
Right.
And yeah, but yeah, no, he wrote the first issue, and sort of sat on it for a little while. He wrote, I think, three or four issues, and it goes absolutely crazy right out the gate. And we looked back over it and said, this, if we just like give this story some time to breathe, we could really be something special. And so the first issue is really similar still. Even the issue that's in print is pretty similar to that first crack at it, but it just takes its time in sort of developing the characters a little bit more before it really starts going crazy.
Right. And even one of the better characters that I think you've written in a real long time is the character of Derek in Mechaton.
Yeah.
Because yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's just like this. Everybody knows a Derek. Everybody has one. Like, that is pretty much careless. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't give a damn about anything. All he wants to do is just get back into the solace of his solitude, play his video games, and just not do anything. And
Yeah.
probably just eat pizza.
He's a lazy dude, but at his heart, he's a good dude.
Yeah,
And that's
but that's
sort
the
of,
other thing. He's carefree, but he's like the nicest guy. The
yeah.
only thing that y'all didn't add is that he could possibly be smoking weed every now and then. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Yeah, in a more adult oriented,
Right?
comic, that might have been that might have been included. It was definitely sort of in the background.
Hmm.
I don't, I don't think we needed to make that explicit
Yeah.
to get the vibe of like,
Considering considering the fact that this is an all ages book, no need for an ashtray with a joint laying into it at all in
right.
this comic at all. That just wouldn't fly. But his sister kind of like provides the realm of being like the guidance counselor for him.
A little bit, yeah.
But
Leah
but she plays
is
into his fun. She plays
for
into,
sure.
yeah.
Oh, she's an accomplice for sure. And I think she likes that he's a little bit on the lazier side, because it makes her feel better about not being
Her life choices, yes.
I mean, not even like she's in that much better of a place. It's just like, well, I'm doing better than this guy.
Yeah.
In a loving way. But uh yeah, they have that rapport with each other, and she tries to bring out the best in him, and pokes and prods him along. And I think that their dynamic is probably one of the things I'm most proud of in the book, is just that, like, getting the sort of brother sister dynamic right.
Yeah.
Where I notice a lot of media takes shortcuts when it comes to establishing that, and showing building that very natural rapport between the characters. Like Gravity Falls gets it right, and everyone else that
Yeah,
tries
that's a good
feels,
comparison.
yeah, everyone else that tries it feels super forced, and I just don't.
Yeah,
It feels like it could be interchangeable. Leah and Derek are brother and sister, and there's no other explanation for that relationship.
yeah. And if we just wanted to even point out just the context of what we're talking about, Mechaton is merely the fact that Derek found an alien tech glove
Mhm.
one day.
Technically, Leah found it, but
I'm
yeah,
sorry. Yes, yes, you're right. You're
Leah
right.
finds this glove. It crash lands out of the sky, nearly flattens her, and she starts toying around with it and realizes it's a piece of technology she doesn't know where from, and it needs some kind of user to interact with it. And she's not going to put it on in. She's not going to put her hand up in it, so she sticks it on Derek, and they realize two things very quickly: one, it won't come off, and two, anything they punch while they wear it turns into a battle mech.
Right. A complete setup, and she has no fault in this. I don't even think she felt bad when Derek got fired.
She didn't find out for a little while. He kept that from her,
Right.
but but
But when he told her, it was just like, you know what? Next
he's
time.
like, I'm not mad. I'm mad that I'm not surprised. That's
Yeah.
where I'm at right now.
It's kind of like, yeah, it was bound to happen anyway, you know. But even in the realm of all this happening, he now has this glove on his hand, and certain things start happening. One being the fact that now where they live is now being intruded by these monstrous creatures, aliens, so be it, mosquitoes, like all sorts of stuff. And you have no idea where this stuff is coming from. All Derek knows is that he has to react. And the only way that he can react, I mean, the first time it was by accident. He was like, "Oh shit, this is what it does."
Yeah, exactly.
But the next
The
couple
first
times,
time is sort of by accident. He doesn't, he doesn't know what he's getting into. It just kind of happens, and then at that point, it's well, we may as well use this.
right?
The second time, there's some resistance because that first time there were some consequences. He
Yeah,
didn't, he got in a little bit
yeah, he
deeper than
was in the
he
police
wanted.
station after that.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And he wound, that resistance wound up putting more people in danger. And so by the third time it comes around, he sort of I don't know if he's completed his hero arc at that point, but he's much quicker to jump into the thick of it. Be
Yeah,
like, all right, I'm the one who can solve the problem. Let's solve the problem.
yeah, and even in that whole storyline, like you're almost looking at it. He's very gullible. He's naive,
He
and it's
is.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, like and even in the fact you come to find out later in the story, generally in issues 3, 4, and 5,
Mhm.
is the scrutiny behind the alien tech, so that you would naturally expect if something from the heavens fell down to earth and then
Right.
somebody had to use it. They were calling it a weapon of mass destruction. The police were saying that, like, we got to throw this kid in jail. uh
Mhm.
but yeah, Captain Bolton, I guess, saw a little bit of solace in it, but then again, it was like, okay, we can use him to save our ass because we didn't do anything when that monster showed up.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that like we didn't want to say like everyone involved in this is automatically going to be the worst person, but the systems that they work for are sort of pointed against Derek and his
Yeah,
family and what they're trying to do. um that ultimately the people around Derek are sort of acting out of self-interest, and yeah, he gets caught in the middle of it because he suddenly finds himself with this incredible power. And
yeah. And even in the midst of all this lightheartedness, like the fact that he then goes against like he's now amassed in all this scrutiny.
Mhm.
And you almost see how society shifts in this book. When something
Mhm.
is unfamiliar to anyone, they automatically deem it as strange or a threat.
Mhm.
So like that portion of the book, where you saw it shift, and Derek's still just being Derek this entire time.
Right. He
But
hasn't changed. The world is changing
yeah,
around him.
exactly. So like not only do you have the people yelling, "Oh, it's a weapon of mass destruction," they also some people even deem him popular. They're like, "Yo, this
Yeah.
you're the best thing ever, man. Mechaton is the best." Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like,
he kind of like unwitting influencer kind of culture happens around him, and people find out where he lives and start like
stalking his house.
yeah, stalking his house with signs and stuff. Yeah, he sort of without meaning to becomes the center of a bunch of controversy, and I think that if there's anything I've learned in the internet age, it's that anyone can go viral for any reason, and you don't really get a say when or why it happens.
Right. Or
Um,
how it
yeah,
happened. Like
or how
it could have been a mistake. And obviously in Derek's case,
yeah,
3/4 of this stuff is a mistake.
yeah, he didn't intend for any of this to he would still be playing video games in the basement if he had his way.
Course. And that's pretty much what he wants to do. And that's what he keeps telling
Mhm.
everybody. It's like, I
Yeah.
just want to go home and play video games. I don't want to be in
Mhm.
this. And even the fact, I mean, Leah's trying to just like be the resolve in this issue.
Yeah.
She wants to put a plastic bubble around Derek. And her overprotective girlfriend Hex is just like every time. It's just like, yo, just get away. First, fix my house that you broke.
Hex is very no nonsense. I love them as a character. Yeah, no, they're super resistant to the whole concept. If I when we wrote that character, we wanted them to feel like they didn't belong in this genre.
Mhm.
Um, uh, like they could be the protagonist of like a weird magical realist fantasy book, almost like a completely different, like does not belong here at all, not amused by any of the antics, but sort of has to roll with it because they care about Leah for the most part,
Oh
and
yeah.
and want to make sure that Leah isn't going to get hurt doing something stupid with Derek around.
Yeah,
um
and even in the fact that Leah's like the trusted guardian, like automatically on TV, like all this stuff is happening. He's getting blown up by his mom.
mhm.
Like
One of my favorite scenes to write in the entire series so far, and there's one in the future that I
uh,
really like. I think everything is building toward, and I'm can't wait to show that off. But the most fun I had writing a scene so far is the scene where they keep getting calls from their mom and they keep putting her on. They keep screening the calls
and,
and being
and,
like, "What are we gonna do?"
and that's crazy. That's like I think that might be like issue 3 or issue
That's
4.
issue
And I was
4.
like, their mom has never even been brought up the entire time. So like,
It's she's been brought up, I think, once or twice as
oh,
like,
issue 1. I'm sorry.
she's gone. We don't have to worry about her. They're sort of staying in her house, and but she's like, she's a part of their lives, but she's not around right now. And I think they know that she's a little bit overprotective and that she would not approve of any of this. So
None of it.
so they just don't want to deal with the reality of like what happens when she finds out.
Yeah, and even so, like I guess after the fact, um, he then comes into the mind of his comes into the face to face with his former boss, Mr. Moore, who runs the
Mhm.
pizza shop. And Mr. Moore is literally trying to utilize the tech that's on his arm as a cash grab, wants him to be the mascot for his pizza place. So when you're talking about that influencer type of balance that he wanted to use, he literally rolled up in his car, but like, don't worry about that, man. That firing
That's in the past.
in the
That
past.
never happened.
I need you to sell this glow in the dark pizza. That's what
Mhm.
we really need to do.
Yeah, that was sort of the the fun and challenging thing that I tried to do with the book is like this great awesome thing happens to you. How does the world around you change? Do you recognize that like people are taking advantage of you?
Hmm.
Because they almost without fail they will. Some people are really genuine and want to help you out and want to do the right thing. Some people purely want to take advantage of you. Can you parse the difference?
Yep.
Um, and yeah, and some people he's suspicious of, and some people he rolls with, and by the end there's some major consequences that get that result in a big throwdown.
That was the big conflict because you actually come to realize like he's been just punching inanimate animated things. He
Yeah.
actually punched a human being. You were like, well, he didn't really turn into a mech. No, he just turned into a grease beast, a piece of pizza waste.
The cheese monster,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
cheese
one of
monster.
my, yeah.
He
That
turned into
was that was one of those things that we kept on like, oh, just wait until they see
yeah,
this.
it's like Pizza the Hut from Spaceballs, just grown.
Hmm.
So you come to realize it like, okay, it does a certain type of thing to human beings if you do
Right.
hit them.
It's it's given a little bit more of a straight explanation in issue 6, which we just got done writing.
Hmm.
Um and yeah, you when as you said at the beginning, like when you get to the end, you're like, oh, we're gonna get some answers finally, like by the end of this. And you do, and those it doesn't veer too hard into like now we're going on space adventures and none of that stuff mattered before.
Right.
But the stakes do pick up, and we get to see a different side of what this unlikely team looks like.
Yeah.
um but yeah, no, everything up until now has been very focused on just what happens to Derek,
Day to
and what are
day.
the consequences of him, taking it at face value.
Yeah.
uh
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like as far as like the whole as a whole, this entire volume, like the cliffhanger ended perfectly. Like how did
Mhm.
as far as like understanding where that arc was going to end in issue 5, and noticeably taking forth that volume 2 was going to be a totally different book than these
Mhm.
first 5 pages. Like when you and Dalton were basically like putting that together, how did y'all see that?
I again, like we really stretched the original premise like taffy. The original thing, the entire story was about 4 or 5 issues.
Hmm.
uh so to me it was about, let's really establish the hell out of who these people are and give them a full arc, right, and let them sort of fully embrace what's going on, and see them, by the I think at least by the time we get to the end, Derek has done one of his most heroic acts, and is truly the best person in the room, by the end of it, even seeing past his mistakes.
Hmm.
And then right when we've had that big character moment and we sort of see how much Derek has grown since issue 1, we figuratively and literally knock him out, and put something totally absurd in front of him. And yeah, the very last thing you see in issue 5 is a blue alien with a scalpel going, hold still, this is only going to hurt for a second.
Yeah, right. So of course, when we're talking about the first 5 issues, we were looking at, okay, alien tech. We saw no aliens, but we kept
Yeah,
seeing all these
you
monsters.
knew
You knew it
from
was
the
inevitable.
prologue, that it's alien
Yeah, you
because
knew
there's,
it was inevitable. Like
yeah,
it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when.
right,
Then we get
exactly.
introduced to this character Enza,
Hmm.
and is it okay to preface her, or is that
No, sure, go ahead. No,
going too far in the issue 6?
all you need to know about Inza is that we see her at the very beginning of the series and the very end, and there's
Hmm.
a couple Easter eggs kind of sprinkled into the mix if for eagle-eyed viewers to look. So she's around, but she doesn't really show herself until very late. Um, for reasons I'm not going to get into, she had possession of the glove. She crash landed on Earth, lost possession of it, and now she wants it back. She's not the only one that wants it back, and
Figured
that
that.
is going to be driving a large part of the conflict in the future. But she is, I think, uh, in maybe in other media, or maybe just like in the grand scheme of things, she really is probably the main character of the story.
Yeah.
If like Derek is the protagonist and that's not going to change, but in if you were to just say like the grand scheme of what this story is on a cosmic scale, she's the protagonist, like she
Okay.
should be the main character, and it's just Derek is kind of haplessly, found himself in the middle of it.
Yeah, and I think it took for his sister to get injured and him to see the reality, the toll of all the destruction that could go on. That was like,
Hmm.
all right, this is getting a little too real.
Hmm.
Yeah.
For
That
sure.
but inevitably, I mean, outside of even just this lovely book here. I mean,
Hmm.
you and Dalton have been pretty much multifaceted writers since you've been doing this. The fact that you have this all ages book, you have your creative IP with doing Frankenstein the Unconquered. You have Depths, which is sort of like a correlation of you and Dalton putting together this long form story for as long as I can remember that you basically put out on Kickstarter and on Zoop.
Hmm.
Catskills that came out recently. Like you just have this I'm gonna say a world view of a lot of the comic book making that you've been doing. How
Sure.
how are you able to genre bend so much? Like you're able to go anywhere you want to go with how you want to create your comics.
Uh, I've never really felt comfortable sticking with one genre. To
Mhm.
me, genre is a smuggler's tool. It's what you use to convince people to read the thing and get what you wanted to say through. People like as an example, Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you sit there and tell people that it's a series about found family and sort of overcoming your limits and finding out the person that you want to be, that sounds great, but it doesn't hook people the way it's about element bending kung fu kick ass little kids
Yeah,
like that. The genre is what makes people go, I want to read that, and then what it's about is sort
what
is
grabs them.
is what makes people stick with the series and really love and appreciate it. And I've as a writer, I've always been more concerned with the latter than the former. And for better and worse, I think I write really good stories and I'm really proud of them. Uh, but I also have a really hard time telling people what they're about because because I don't start with it would be cool to make a really good sci-fi, action comedy
Right,
uh, for all ages. I start with I want to tell a story about community and coming together and working with what you have and sort of the thing that gloms that all together is the science fiction. Um, so yeah, it's to me, I just start with what I want to say with a story, and then I find a genre that works. Um, there's some exception to that. I think we when I started on Catskin and the Rose, which is fantasy romance, that did more or less start with what would I do with a romance, because I don't know. I never have thought about writing it before, and so I just started from the fantasy romance and sort of built something really cool on top of
right.
that. But yeah, I also really just like exploring different things and finding out, I guess, stuff working with stuff that's cool, not necessarily stuff that I'm familiar with. I like
Mhm.
challenging myself and going to different places and weird places and seeing what I like about it.
Mhm.
I'm not guaranteeing anything about what you're going to see in the future, but like I went down a rabbit hole of reading like uh, Annihilation and the Southern Reach trilogy from James Vandermeer, and that style of like science fiction cosmic horror just like ingrained itself in me, and I really want to do something with that now.
Right, right,
But
right, right.
I mean, no, I'm not gonna hold me or anyone else to that. I'm not gonna say that you're gonna see something cosmic horror related from me, but that's
But
generally how it starts. Is
yeah.
it I get something, I see something really cool, and I'm like, either what can I do with that, or I have a really like solid thing that I want to say, and I go, how do I say this in a
Mm.
cool and interesting way?
Yeah, are pitch comparisons like a bad idea? Like meaning like if somebody said about Mechaton that maybe like, oh, it's just like Pacific Rim? Is that like a bad idea to like actually like say to where something you'd be like,
No, I think
it's nothing like Pacific Rim.
no, I think it's necessary. People, particularly writers, are really precious when it comes to their work.
Hmm.
But we think we want our thing to be the most unique thing in the world. But I think uh, people learn to like stuff and people try new stuff based on the stuff that they already like.
Right.
So yeah, learning how to do like effective media comparison as a someone who's pitching a story is really really important. And yeah, I say all the time, Mechaton is Scott Pilgrim meets Pacific Rim. If you like those, you'll like this. And you can pick apart how accurate that is, but at the end of the day, if what someone likes about those is over the top action and giant robots and kaiju and sort of rule of cool wackiness, they're gonna like Mechaton.
Right.
And so it's just kind of generally pointing people in the direction that you want them to go.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. But hey, I appreciate you doing this with me. Mechaton right now has about, well, how long left? Shoot, I think like 28 days.
Yeah, it just launched yesterday, so we've
You're
got
already
it
halfway
says
there.
28 days to go. Tack on another, couple of or another like 24 hours to that because there's always a bit of a weird reset.
Yep.
So yeah, we've got it. It ends on March 6th, Wednesday, March 6th. It is currently sitting at about $1,300 out of a $3,000 goal. It's ready to print as soon as it's done. We're gonna be able to ship it out. Yeah, all the art and everything is done. There's no weight on it. So really, we're just looking to break some stretch goals and really see how far we can push it and hopefully get some new people
I think
interested.
so. Usually trades get a chance to do that, especially when it comes to like convention season and the way that they're basically
Mhm.
like broader, they're a broader sense of commerce because you do get the full story or you get a full arc.
Mhm.
So that's always a bonus, man. But I wish you guys the best of luck. I mean, I know if you're halfway there, more than likely I'm just gonna send out an advance congratulatory message to you because I'm pretty sure that's gonna go down, especially with Megaton, because it's obviously been something that a lot of people have gravitated to over time. Every time you've had the ability to put out issues out, it's definitely something that people look forward to.
Yeah, no, I of all the stuff that we do, Mechaton is the one I think, you know, it has probably the smallest fan base. It has is probably the smallest amount of people that come back, but the people that come back very consistently.
Yeah.
I get the most, mail and emails and stuff about asking about Mechaton and when the next one's coming out. People telling me that they love Mechaton. That people talk to me about Mechaton the most, like
Hmm.
as fans. As people, I think Frankenstein draws a lot of people in, and a lot of people are really
That's what
curious
drew
about
me
it.
into you. And then I got to
Yeah,
know this.
exactly. Like a lot of people get drawn in by Frankenstein the Unconquered, and Frankenstein the Unconquered is really cool.
Yeah.
But Mechaton is the one that they really fall in love with. So there's definitely something special about the book, about the story, and I just can't wait to put it in the hands of every child in America.
Oh, I'm all for it. Now I'm happy to promote that fact, man. Well, Wells, it's always a pleasure to have you on. I appreciate everything that you're doing, man. So if anybody wanted to get their hands on basically past issues of Mechaton,
Mm.
how could they basically do so?
Sure. Well, the Kickstarter has uh, the trade available and also all the back issues. So if you're a collector, if you want to get all of the available covers and whatnot, yeah, that's all there. Um, but yeah, other than that, if it's not, if you hear this and we're past the time of the Kickstarter, you can go to my website wellsthompson.com. I have links to where you can find everything there, as well as my newsletter Substack, where you can keep up with what I'm working on and when stuff comes out and see pictures of my cats every now and then.
Absolutely, man. Hey, by the way, tell Dalton we said hey.
For sure, will do. Yeah,
All right.
he unfortunately had a late day, wasn't able to make it, but
All good, man.
yeah.
All right, man. So from James Grandmaster Facts Boys and the Facts Project, Wells Thompson, go out there, get Mechaton Volume 1 right now on Kickstarter. You got almost a little less than a month left, so go out there and get that. Thank you again. So for everybody here at the Facts Project, we are out.